recording this class for the 7th graders and any of the students that did not make it to class for a variety of reasons, like, well, there's all sorts of reasons you wouldn't have made it. Hope you're feeling better if you did have to miss for that. All right, so let's start first with homework. So next Tuesday, your medieval country project is due. You remember that it's 5 paragraphs. They do not need to be connected. It's not an essay. So you're not writing like 5, Miss Pilson level joining paragraphs. I just want 5 separate paragraphs that are sort of in the model of what I told you about in class. And these paragraphs are going to just say why you chose this item, like how did it connect to the history or the culture of whatever country you're doing it on. Besides that, you're going to have a bag with these 5 items in it. And the presentation is really straightforward and simple. So for the presentation, you will just show the item and give us a sentence about why did you pick it. You don't need to read the sentence. You don't need to think too hard about it. You will have already written a paragraph, so you'll have more than a sentence to say. So just summarize it down to 1 sentence. If any of you are still virtual on Tuesday, you'll still turn in your 5 paragraphs, and you'll still do that from home. So you'll still be showing us your item and saying a little bit about each of the 5 items. Not a big deal. No stress on the presentation part. It's just good practice for life to do any presentations, because anything that puts you in front of people just gets you more comfortable with talking in front of a super friendly audience, your class, and it helps you with the future when it's going to actually improve your life if you are capable and able to just stand up and say a few sentences in front of people. It just opens your possibilities of things you can do in life immensely. So besides that, you can see here that lessons 51 and 52, this is Eric the Red and Leif Erikson. So in the excitement of what we get to do in history, we're looking at medieval history that's happening right now in different places around the world. We talked on Tuesday about the Dark Ages in Europe. Today, when we talk about the Song Dynasty at roughly the same time, it's going to be astonishing how different it is. Really, how much more vibrant, how much more sort of enthusiastic, and how neat so much of the Song Dynasty was, except a few parts of it. And then when we talk on Tuesday about what was happening with the Vikings, you're going to get to see some of the things that happened in Greenland and Canada at roughly the same time. And just the other week we talked about Africa. So you're really getting to get a sense of what was happening all over the world at this point in history. Lots of different things. And so you can see from these that it's not just about Eric the Red and Leif Erikson, but some stuff just about Greenland in general. Okay, we're going to start though today with a benediction from the 10th century. I put a copy of a picture of the book that this came out of right here. And if you guys can stand up and say this benediction with me. I want y'all online to join, but you don't need to turn on your mics. You can just keep yourself muted, but go ahead and say it with us, please. So let's open our class with a benediction, which is usually the closing of a service, but we're going to do it as an opening. A benediction from the 10th century. And do say it out loud with me, please. May our Lord Jesus Christ be near us to defend us, within us to refresh us, around us to preserve us, before us to guide us, behind us to justify us, above us to bless us, who liveth and reigneth with the Father and the Holy Ghost, God forevermore. Amen. All right, now a brief review of this for our upcoming quiz. Who would like to do it? Who wants to come sit up here and click through? Anybody been practicing? Nobody wants to go through and practice? It can be somebody who's already done it before if you want to to watch our lone male student in the room be super again. You want to? All right, Parker's going to do it for us again because he was so good last time. And when he's doing this, the rest of you guys remember that you want to practice this yourself so you can be as good at this as Parker is. All right, Kenya.
This one?
Yes. What does it say?
Mauritania.
Oh, it's the one all the way on the side. It goes, yeah, that one. Yeah.
Algeria.
That's the big one. It's, yeah, that one. Nope, that one, right? Yeah.
Sudan.
Sudan is,
Is it this one or like?
no, I think it's up at the top. Yeah, right there. Nope. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, that's not one?
This is the
Oh,
little
you
thing.
go down.
It's that one. No, wait.
No, that one.
Inside.
No, over, no,
On
to
the
your
right.
right. Well, not to your right. My
It's
right.
This
that one.
one?
Yeah.
Libya.
Libya is the one that, the up near, up, yeah, that one.
Nigeria.
Go down.
Yeah.
Huh.
Uganda.
Uganda is near Kenya. It's, yeah, that one.
Egypt.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Angola.
That's the one down.
I have no idea what that is.
Oh wait, go up. And go to the side. Yeah.
Mozambique.
Not like that one.
Niger.
It's right above, yeah.
Ethiopia.
Is right above Kenya. Yeah.
South Africa. Zimbabwe.
It's
just small.
This
yeah,
one?
that one. Okay.
Morocco.
That's all the way at the top.
It's the tiny one? Yeah, that one.
Republic of the Congo.
It's in the middle.
Yeah, okay, that's it. Pause for a minute just so you know. The quiz has the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is right next to it.
Okay.
This Republic of the Congo, this smaller one, accidentally showed up on the online quiz, but it's the large one next to it. That little Republic of the Congo is not going to be on the quiz, but it's right next to the right one.
Okay,
Zambia.
it's down.
Right above the
No.
This one?
That one.
Mali.
That one's the like really tiny one.
Yeah, up at the top.
Chad.
That is the one right next to the orange one.
What's one?
Is the little middle one to the left. Yeah.
There you go. Good job. Thank you, Parker. Thank you again. All right. Let's. Okay. So the next thing here is Pop Goes the Weasel. Isn't that super cute? All right, so I need to do two things. I'm going to hand out a quiz to you guys. You are allowed to use your note cards if you have them. You might not need them, but you're allowed to use them. And for those of you online, which is now, oh, hey, Jeremy. So Ginger, Hyatt, and Jeremy, you're allowed to use your note cards. I am now going to make live on Google Classroom a quiz for you. And so, oh wait, am I still presenting? I'm going to stop presenting for a minute. And I'm going to make this live over in your classwork. And then you are allowed to take it. It's a very short, quiz. Parker, let me click you off. I'm glad you're not needing to do it. Okay, so I just assigned this to you, which means that you should be able to find it on Google Classroom. Go ahead and pull it up on Google Classroom. It's called Song Dynasty Pop Quiz. I am going to mute you guys so you don't hear us talking, but finish it and turn it in, and then we're going to go over the answers, even though you'll see the answers immediately. Type a question in the box if you need it. This is the same for anybody who's watching this. You will have an active quiz in Google Classroom, and you need to take that Google Classroom quiz at this time in the video. You guys can start taking it as soon as you get this. Please do write your name. There's questions on the back as well, so it goes over to the back. There's 10 questions. Is there anybody here who's still working on your quiz? It's fine if you are, but go ahead. You and somebody sitting near you want to switch for grading, you can. Mark graded by. I'm not trying to hurry you, Madeline. I'm just giving them something to do. If not, you can just write graded by on the bottom of your paper and write graded by me. You guys finished and turned it in? Online people?
Yeah.
Good. Anybody still working? Anybody need more time? All right, we're gonna now go over the answers. If you're a virtual or watching this as a recording and you haven't yet finished it, please pause the video. But I think probably you online people have already clicked through and submitted it, and I'll see it on Google Classroom. Okay, let's look at these, and you're grading it. Just put a check or an X, and then I'll give the final grade. What tragic custom in the Song Dynasty resulted in women living their lives in a painful and deformed state? Sounds terrible, doesn't it? Foot binding, that was C. Number 2, in the Song Dynasty, Parker, poor peasant farmers were?
B.
They were B. They're at the top of the social hierarchy. Not the very top, but they were toward the top. Number 3, Rachel, the Song Dynasty lasted for? Not 100. Anybody? It's 300 years, yeah. So you sort of had to like round the numbers, but the number of centuries it was 3 centuries. Number 4, Elise, the explosive weapons in the Song Dynasty were powered by? Gunpowder is correct. That's an A. Number 5, Mary, is it true or false that Kaifeng was a good place for the capital because it had a natural moat around the city? It is true. Number 6, Ginger, what invention forever changed the way people communicated ideas?
A movable pink type.
That is correct. D. And 7, Summer, acupuncture worked by using needles. B is correct. On the back. Number 9, because apparently I forgot how to count when I was typing this. Delicate pottery, Elizabeth. Delicate pottery made from white clay was called what? Porcelain is correct. We call it fine china today. So if anybody ever says, "Oh, I have some fine china," they're talking about porcelain. That comes from this technique in China. Number 10, Hyatt. What was a significant book published in the Song Dynasty that educated people on a variety of subjects?
Dream Stream essays.
Very true. That was letter A. And finally, Ashlyn, a compass needle was found. The magnetic what? Nope, not the equator, but the North Pole. Yeah. Compass always points north. It's pointing not to north as in the actual point where the mythical man in red lives, but it uses a place that's down 70 miles below the surface of the earth that's magnetic, and it moves a little bit, and the compass always points toward that, the magnetic North Pole. All right, so those of you online, it should already have submitted to me. Those of you in person, I'm going to come and collect those quizzes. Make sure it has both your name and who graded it, and you don't need to give it a number grade, just otherwise. And then we will present on and go on. Okay, so I'm going to go back to presenting here, and let's see what else we have. Okay. All right, so a lot of this stuff we've now gone over, so let's focus a little bit more on the pictures and the experience of what the Song Dynasty is. Parker, can you cut the front lights just to make it stand out a little bit more? So when you do the numbers and average it out, you do see that the Song Dynasty lasted for about 300 years. This pretty cool picture is this is the Chinese character for the Song Dynasty, and that's one of the Chinese dragons. We already said one of the reasons that Kaifeng was a good place for a capital city, the moat. Mary, what was the other one?
The trade there was good.
Right, because of the trade. It was at the heart of the Chinese Empire. It was good for trade. Here's a picture to sort of show you this. Now remember I said one of the skills of geography is to be able to take a map like this on the right and to place it in the world. So here is a larger map to place it in the world. Over here on the left, you see Africa, and you can see some Middle East things, and then right here's India. This is Asia. Down here, Australia. So what we're talking about is right here. It's this part of Asia. All right, so here's a zoomed in. So here you see that the Song Dynasty itself is this darker orange part, but it's in this larger context of all these kingdoms they would be trading with. So Kaifeng is right here in the heart of it. And here's some modern day tourist attraction pictures of like replicas of Song Dynasty in Kaifeng. Isn't this so beautiful? Natural moats. It's huge. Here's the bridge right here. Keep that bridge in mind because we're going to show you another picture. Was this on your list again, Madeline? It's so easy. It's so easy to get onto your list. Well, it's really beautiful. And let me show you in the ancient times. All right, so the moats are large. Like this is a boat or a bridge. Here's a famous scroll that depicted these moats. So you can see this bridge again up here. You can see how big the moats are. Like maybe the sides of it aren't quite as finished as what we just saw, but it's basically the same sort of thing that we just saw. It's quite large, and the moat that surrounds the city is not like you think in those castles where you could basically hop over it. This was a quite a large river looking thing. Oh, a little bonus thing. The book mentioned something about the restaurants, and I wanted to tell you. When it says, it's not that restaurants were invented in the Song Dynasty, but most of the time prior to this, if people were to eat out, they might do it like, they might go to an inn if they were traveling, and then have a meal at the inn. I think you can think of movies you've watched where this has happened. Like I feel like Gandalf met one of the people he was meeting at one of these situations, but he had his own private table. So that's a little unrealistic because what would happen in these inns or sort of pub inn thing is that there might be one large table that everybody would sit at. So you'd be basically eating with strangers, and you would eat whatever they fed you. It's like when you sit down for your family dinner, you don't get to say, "Nah, Mom, I've decided I really would prefer something else tonight. Would you mind just making me a hamburger? Because I'm not really in the mood for the spinach casserole." You don't get to choose like that at home. Well, you didn't get to choose in these inn settings either. You just ate what you ate, and there are no fixed prices. So the price you would pay would be whatever the innkeeper could get you to pay. He might be like, "You look rich, I think I'll charge you this much." So what the big development was in the Song Dynasty, there was a little bit of it was having these tables for like you and your party. You know, here you get to eat with the people of your choice rather than with strangers. But the big thing is that because of the printing capacity and because they had paper in the Song Dynasty, there were menus for the first time in history. And menus where it would be written down with a fixed price, and it would say, "Here are your options, and look, people over here who are like taking your order and fixing you what you want." So next time you go to a restaurant, don't take for granted that that's a really cool development in history to get to ask for something that you want rather than just eating whatever they have and then paying whatever they ask. I'll say, incidentally, I learned the most interesting thing about menus when I was reading up on this. And it is that there used to be, in America, there used to be two menus that would be given when you would sit down to eat. One would be the men's menu and one would be the women's menu.
Really?
Which one do you think didn't have prices on it? The women's menu. So it'd be like the man would be taking the woman out and she would be given the menu without the prices and the man could eyeball and see how much it would cost. But the woman was supposed to be choosing without knowing the price because it was just like to make the date more polite. This didn't change in California till 1980 in the finest restaurants. Now at this point it would only be in like the fine restaurants like McDonald's, anybody would know what it costs. But in these super fine restaurants it was still considered like the fancy thing to do. So it was finally a court case brought by this woman who had taken a work colleague out to dinner and they gave the man, it was a woman who had done this, they gave the man the menu with the prices and the woman who's paying for the meal didn't get a menu with prices and she ended up like basically presenting a court case, which she didn't finish through, but they settled, but it changed the laws in California, sort of essentially to take out what the sort of the discriminatory aspect of not letting a woman see the prices on the menu.
It's kind of nice though.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
you never have to pay for anything, so I mean.
there's some benefits. But if you're the person taking somebody out for a meal and you don't get to know how much it costs, that would stink. All right, Confucius, we didn't mention him when we were going over the test, but it was Confucius's idea that the song Dynasty was applying. Parker, what idea was this?
Cause they like farmed and they got food for everyone.
Do you think Confucius has a good point?
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you think that the people who are farming, producing food should be honored? Do you, what argument in society for like, let's pay so and so more do you hear that's kind of like that? Something that we hear today.
Well, it's like the thing that they're giving like everyone like a little bit of like the government's paying.
Yeah, the stimulus package. But what is it that where they're saying like these people are underpaid because they actually provide great value, but they don't get paid very much. Where do you hear that in society? It's not usually farmers anymore. There's just only like 1% of our population is farming at this point. You don't know? Teachers. People are always saying that about teachers. That teachers provide this great service, they should get paid more. Whether or not that's true, it's sort of a Confucius argument that people who are doing something that's valuable for the entire nation should be treated with a higher level of respect. And so in the hierarchy of China, it wasn't like the peasants who farmed were at the tippy top of it, but they were much higher up than the people who were running stores and lawyers and doctors and what people we would consider now to be skilled workers versus unskilled workers. So that's how we value things, is by skill or lack of skill, and maybe we add to it how much schooling the person had to have. Like they did a lot of schooling, so they need to make more money. But yeah, the Confucius idea completely sort of upended that whole idea. I'm sure you got these words, but I just wanted to point out you do not need to know the Chinese words. If you wrote them down, don't memorize them unless you just want to do it for yourself. All right, some things that made money better. Rachel, what was invented to improve that kind of trade?
They like printed money.
Yeah.
Money, so they didn't have to like count like heavy coins and stuff.
Yes. And what did they do with their coins when they did have them?
They could just like use them. They were more.
Yes, they could wear them around. Now, sharp contrast to the Dark Ages that I was in Europe that I was telling you about, isn't it? Do you remember what I said about the Dark Ages? No money. What did they do instead? What kind of economy was it? There was barter economy. So it was a big deal to be able to be like shortcut so much economically. All right, here's money. Oh, I got my coins around my neck. Right here. Isn't that so neat? These coins with a square hole in them right here. And this one on the right is actually Song Dynasty paper money. So it's quite old. This right here is a newer paper money here on the bottom left. But you can see that there's some real artistry in the Chinese money. All right, what invention forever changed the way people communicated ideas? Ideas, Rachel? It was what?
The movable type.
Yes, the movable type printing press. And I know that in our brains we always think of Gutenberg, but you know what? Hundreds of years before. Here we go. Bai Xing was making individual Chinese characters out of clay. Now, Gutenberg had it a little bit easier. How many characters is Gutenberg printing and using? How many different little characters is Gutenberg moving around? This is not a trick question. You know how many letters are in your envelope, in your alphabet? 26. So Gutenberg had 26 characters to move around. He had to make a lot of sum letters. Just like in your Scrabble games, you have to have a lot more of sum letters than others. You don't use X very much. Z doesn't show up much. Gutenberg had to have a lot of E's. But it's basically like moving around those letters. The Chinese printing, which of course was done hundreds of years before, they were doing this where every character was a word. So think of how many different characters they had to have. Yes, of course, some were repeated, but they're putting together these huge conglomerates of it. And I know you wanted to see a video of it. Try it.
印刷
Yishua.
A Chinese named Bi Sheng invented movable type print around 1,000 years ago. The movable components are cubes made of baked clay. Characters were carved on each piece of clay, which look like the seals widely used in China. The movable components could be arranged freely to form different vocabularies and sentences. They were fixed on an iron plate with frames in certain sequence. Then ink was painted. And a piece of paper was laid out. A printed sheet was created this way. This technique improved the efficiency of printing and transformed traditional transcription into modern printing. Script and painting spread widely in the world with the help of Yinshua.
All right. So here's where the handout that I gave you, and you guys online, the handout that you can just pull up on Google Classroom. This is where it comes in. And we're not going to at all read through all of this, but if you can look at this handout, you'll see some interesting things about about the Dream Stream essays. So, to start off with, this was a publication, and it was about science, math, medicine, architecture. It was duplicated. It helped to educate people. I have great news for you. It is available on Amazon if you'd like to go buy it and read it. It's probably available in Chinese. I had a really hard time finding it on a PDF in English. I just didn't want to actually take up my whole computer downloading it either. But you can purchase it on Amazon if you would like to read the Dream Stream essays, which goes by not the Dream Pool essay, because when they translate from Chinese to English, you know, there's different words that get used. So anyway, look on the printout that I gave you, and look down at the 4th paragraph. So the 4th paragraph tells us that one of the things that Shin Kao pointed out is that human beings had a pharynx and a larynx. The pharynx for devouring food, the larynx for ventilation. I'm just trying to show you there's a lot of different things that he was into. Also, next sentence, he was really into fossils. He was a fossil hunter. Fossilized seashells. And he concluded from the fossils that there had at one point been his city had been near the sea. Next, or 2 paragraphs down. When he was in his 30s, he had a frequent dream of a place. In his dream, he ascended a hill. The summit was covered with brightly colored flowers and trees. Clear water flowed at the base of the hill, banked on either side by dense woods. Later, he was traveling around, and he was shocked to find a place that he had seen in his dreams a bunch of times in real life. So he sat down there and wrote his dream stream or dream pool essays. Look at the last paragraph on this page. He was hundreds of years ahead of Western scientists in the fields of astronomy, meteorology, geography, mineralogy, mathematics, calendar. He was the first person to discover that the compass doesn't point north, it points to the magnetic North Pole 70 miles underneath the surface. In the field of math, he discovered techniques that helped with trigonometry. He also, today, it's 1,000 years old, and his work has been translated into a lot of languages. And you too can read it in English if you would like to read old work. All right, explosive weapons. Okay, so the explosive weapons, these bows and arrows that were triggered with gunpowder, like your quiz said. Here is a picture, old pictures or ideas. Basically the arrows with a flame there with them. And here, what they would do then is they would bundle these up together. So in piles of arrows bundled together, propelled by gunpowder, and then they would shoot everywhere and they would be on fire. So, just turning the invention of gunpowder toward this. Porcelain. Now this is when the song Dynasty gets beautiful. The porcelain is so beautiful. So, you know, of course, it was on your quiz that it's a delicate pottery. It's made from taking white clay, firing it, which is baking it at a really high temperature, and it's painted, and there's different techniques they use. Let's just stare in awe at a few pictures, and then I'm going to show you a little bit about how they do it. So it's really, I think, breathtakingly beautiful, the Song Dynasty porcelain in particular. Mm-hmm. And the crackle is on purpose. Yes, Elizabeth? What about your house? Really? Ooh, they must be modeled after some Song Dynasty porcelain. It's thin, it's fine, it's easily broken, which is part of what makes it so valuable. And then I love these. I love just not the glaze on them, but also the just simple lines. In a lot of ways, it looks very modern, doesn't it? So we must be hearkening back to some of their stuff.
Then there are the kilns and the firing temperatures. I found all of that really interesting to study, to unravel, and figure out. The works in this sale come from the Ling Yushangren collection, one of the world's finest and most comprehensive collections of Song Dynasty ceramics. Song ceramics refer to ceramics produced during China's Song Dynasty, which runs from the 10th century to the 13th century. The works have very straightforward shapes, and they're characterized by light-colored, subtle hued glazes. Each kiln during the Song Dynasty generally was best known for one type of ware. This is a conical bowl from the Ding kilns. The Ding kilns mainly produce white wares. These are the rarest of the rare in Chinese ceramics because of its black glaze. It has a porcelain body, a white body, which you can see on the underside. It was fired resting on its foot ring in the kiln, so the foot ring had to be left unglazed. The potter held it this way, dipping it into the glaze mixture, swirled it around. The position of the fingers left those indentations. With the dark glazes, the decoration is usually abstract. The very finest ones have the partridge feather models, which are simply brown flecks, evenly and harmoniously on the surface of the glaze. It's just a very rare and very wonderful piece. The Yaozhou kilns are best known for their celadon wares. In Song Dynasty ceramics, the principal decorative motifs are floral. Often we see a lotus, or we might see a peony, or in the case of the celadon piece, hibiscus. Once the piece has been shaped, the potter will incise or carve the decoration, let it dry, and then coat it with the glaze, and once that's dry, it's ready for firing. The Suzhou pieces are more complex. They use gray stoneware, but in order to make it resemble porcelain, they covered it all over with white slip to look like imperial dingware. Slip is a clay that's been ground to a fine powder and mixed with water. Once they coated with white slip, how do you decorate it? Their first inclination was to carve as they had in the celadon pieces. They incised the outlines of the floral decoration, then they took a scalpel and shaved away the slip. As Suzhou ware progresses, they move from this very laborious technique to painting. So this has a full coating of white slip, but instead of carving all of the decoration as on the bowl, they have used a brush, which they dipped into black slip, and then painted on the surface. Just below the neck, they coated a circle with black slip, and then incised chrysanthemum petals. In the same way that for the fish, they incised through the black slip in a crosshatch pattern. They were storage vessels for wine, for soy sauce, for vinegar. I think it's the simplicity and the straightforwardness, and in many cases the subtlety of the wares, which gives them a very contemporary feel. They may look simple, but there's a very complicated technique behind all of it. These are the ultimate achievement in those techniques, and they still serve as inspiration for potters today.
Amazing, isn't it? So beautiful. All right, has anyone ever heard of somebody doing acupuncture? Have you ever done it yourself?
My uncle's
Yeah. So it's something that people do. It's an ancient Chinese medical technique, if I could say, a treatment that involves sticking needles into your body to relieve symptoms or to improve health. If you ever were to see an acupuncture person, they generally have a poster on their wall that's some sort of replica of these ancient ideas, where it sort of shows you all these needles. Well, it's where they would put the needles, but those are all telling you what each little part is supposed to relieve. I have sometimes used something that I think is not acupuncture, but acupressure points, and it is. I have two things. One is that if my legs cramp up, I'll squeeze my upper lip and hold it for 3 seconds. You have to relax when you do this, but it helps relieve leg cramps. And the other thing is that when I was having babies, there's pain involved with actually having a baby, and there were some acupressure points. Like one of them, this is very weird, but my heel right here, there's an acupressure point there that helps relieve pain related to labor there, and some others that are more normal, which you would expect. But anyway, it's really weird, but I probably was sat in with 7 or 8 people who had babies, and it worked for other people, not just me. So it was not in my brain, not all made up. So I don't really understand acupuncture acupuncture or acupressure, but it is pretty interesting that a long time ago they had some of these. So you know, we already talked about the compass needle is finding North Pole below the surface, the real magnetic North Pole. Here's a Song Dynasty compass. The magnetic needle would point north-south for a long time. What happened in the Song Dynasty is not that they invented this as much as they invented a way to make it portable so that people who were out exploring or doing something could actually take the compass with them. All right, here's what you've been waiting for, I'm sure. The beautiful art in the Song Dynasty. So you can just be in awe of the Song people for a few minutes before we remind ourselves about foot binding. Yep. So here's some beautiful silk pieces. Here's the jade, the fans. Hey, look at this stuff. Remember when you read about the guy who did the blob art? It's kind of like impressionistic art in a sense. Now, if we have time, if we have a minute before the end, I'm going to come back to this and you guys can try on your card or on a piece of paper to do some of this. But when you do calligraphy, there's round and square strokes. You're supposed to start with the horizontal strokes and then switch to do the rest, but you finish with the thing at the bottom last. So we can try that, but last but not least. The terrible custom of trying to create lily feet in women and fashion gone awry again. These wealthy women who had this were handicapped their entire lives. The poor women somehow felt like something was wrong with them because they had giant feet, and they were the ones that were not handicapped. Yes?
Yeah, like my dad said that he had a friend who had he was really tall, but then he had smaller shoes, so then
Yes.
really
Yes, and I'll show you a picture of the smaller shoes, but I also wanted to say if you don't want to see this, close your eyes right now. This is just the medical part. This is what a normal foot looks like, and this is what they, after years of squishing up the feet, this is what they did to it. But if you don't want to see the picture of the actual lily feet, close your eyes and don't look right now, because online too, because I'm going to show you real fast a picture which is utterly optional to look at. So this is what would happen when the women's feet were bound. Those are the toes. And these are the kind of shoes that they would have to wear, and this is the way their feet would look. All right, so take the last minute to try to write a Chinese character. Maybe on your card or something. We have 1 more minute till class ends. See if you can copy and imitate one of these characters. Remember that in the Chinese one, you would do the horizontal stroke, and then you would turn and complete the rest of it. So, and then do the one at the bottom one at the very end. So pick any one of these characters that's of interest to you and try to imitate it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I switched the wrong one. All right. So it is time for class to end. You guys can go. Thank you for being good sports about all of this. I'm going to stop this video.